In part one of this video series, we assembled the Primo model that's part of this Smart Ready to Fly package. In part two of this video series, we'll set up the radio, take the airplane out flying, and chat briefly about using the Gavin 6A transmitter and an optional USB connector as a flight sim controller for a free flight simulator where you can build your flying skills. Okay, so the first thing we need to do with the radio is to calibrate the sticks. And the instructions for that say is to hold the trim button to the right while turning on the radio. And you see that the lights are flashing. That means it's in calibration mode. And at this point, we just simply move the sticks up and down, and then left and right, and then up and down, left and right. And then it says to center the sticks and press this button to the left. And when these turn all green, it means that the calibration was successful. So we've got the calibration done. That's important because we want to make sure that we're getting full control inputs from our transmitter. Now it's time to bind it to the receiver in the airplane. So at this point, again, working with the propeller off for safety reasons, I'm going to bind the receiver. Now the reason this becomes the smart version of the Ready to Fly is because we're using the MSR66A receiver, which has got the built-in stabilization. And so we've got it plugged in as the receiver instructions ask for, and then it says to press the bind button, and I'm just going to use the tip of my screwdriver for 2 seconds until it starts to flash slowly. So I don't know if you can see that. Let me see if I can move that so it's better viewed in there for you. And so it's flashing slowly, the little LED. And then it says with the transmitter within about 1 meter, and usually too close is not good, but too far is not good either. So I've got it about 2.5 feet away. I'm simply going to turn on this Gavin 6A. So there we go. So you can hear that the receiver connected. The receiver and the transmitter at this point share a common ID number. That's how the receiver knows not to react to other transmitters that might be nearby. And it's turned green. So that's how you go about binding the receiver and the transmitter together. Okay, so I've got the radio up here by the receiver so you can see two things that we look at. One of them is the color of the LED there on the receiver, and then the other is the position of this switch. This is the 3-position switch on this Gavin 6A that controls the flight mode. I move the flaps to the gear channel, so the flaps move on this 2-position switch, so they're either up or down. But for a trainer, you're probably not going to be messing with flaps much anyway, but for a beginner, this is working out really pretty well. So you notice it's green, and so the switch is fully back, and the green indicator means that the gyro is off. If you take it up and get it all trimmed up, you may want to do that with a friend who knows how to fly, and to test and make sure that you've got the airplane flying well before you try to engage gyros. The second middle switch, you can see that the light turned blue, and that means that the receiver is now in the normal mode, which means that it's going to give you some stability help up there when you're flying. So if the wind knocks the airplane around, the controls will move automatically to recenter the airplane. And then the switch fully toward you changes the color of the switch to kind of a blue-green or a light blue color, and that's the auto recovery mode. So if you were out there, you got it totally discombobulated there with what the airplane was doing, you could flick this switch, and given enough altitude, the airplane would return to straight and level flight, at which point you could put it back to normal and resume flying the airplane. So that's kind of your emergency switch fully towards you. Straight up is normal with the gyro on, and straight back is off with just the receiver working as a normal receiver without any stability augmentation. So that's how that works in the radio. It's all wired. You don't have to do any programming, although you can use the transmitter to program, or probably, if you want to really get into it, buy the receiver card to do the programming for that receiver. It's much easier than, you know, counting beeps and moving sticks with a transmitter. So that's it. We've got the radio set. Now it's ready to put the wings back on, make sure all the servos are moving the right directions, have the right control throws as described in the instructions, and put the propeller on, and we'll be ready to go fly. Now that we have the model complete, let's take it out to the field and see how the Primo performs. Yep. All right. As mentioned earlier, you can use the Gavin 6 transmitter as a controller for a computer RC flight simulator. Dynam has a USB cable connector available that allows you to connect your transmitter to your computer. There's a page on the Bitgo Hobby website I'll link to in the description below that has a download link for the basic flight simulator and a DLL file for a Windows 10 computer to allow this older simulator to work on current computers. A basic flight sim allows you to get used to the flight controls and get some experience in having your brain do the shift from an aircraft flying away from you to one that is flying towards you. As you'll see, the flight controls seem to reverse, and that can take some getting used to. I like to joke that the flight sim is a place to get the first 100 crashes under your belt, all without damaging your plane. In fact, this sim, called the Flying Model Simulator, is the one I started with years ago. There are many planes available online to help keep you from getting bored. Just connect the Gavin transmitter using the little pigtail that comes with the USB connector, and then connect the two wires together. Next, plug the larger end with the USB-A connector to your computer. You should see a red light flashing on the little circuit board on the USB end of your cable. The transmitter needs to be on to work with the Flying Model Simulator. Here's how to get FMS up and running. Okay, here's the display for the Flying Model Simulator. And when you get yours running, you've loaded it in your computer. Use the DLLs that were available on the web page listed below here in the video. You get those all in. It's going to come up just like this. This is a regular Windows computer running the latest version of Windows 10, so it does work. You're going to start by going to the controls. Then you're going to hit the analog controls, hit the joystick interface, and then click mapping and calibration. Now, with the transmitter connected, you can move the throttles and various flight controls. And so this is the elevator. You see number 2 moves, and so it's selected number 2 over here. Going this way, channel number 1 moves, and so it'll make sure you've got a 1 here. Channel number 3 is the throttle, and you notice it's backwards. When I've got it full down, it's full up, and so I click the reverse. So if you were to plug this into your computer and you turn left with your control stick and the airplane turned right in the simulator, you just come into this screen and change the aileron to inverse as well. So it really works pretty easily. So when you get that done, you can also calibrate. If you press the calibrate button, it'll just ask you to twist the various sticks around, run them around the horn, so it gets a chance to understand what is actually the full throw of the sticks, so the software understands. With that done, then you can click OK, and now you're ready to fly. So let's take it for a quick flight. Got the airplane taken off. And the fidelity is okay. But again, what you're primarily wanting to do is learning how to fly level flight and how to get the airplane to turn right and left on your command and not end up turning right when you want to turn left. And so getting a bunch of time just flying in circles is one of the things you're going to be doing just to improve your hand-eye coordination, so your brain knows what to do when your eye sees that your model is doing something else. The sim is pretty good. You can put it up, you can do basic aerobatics. Here's a little axial roll or aileron roll. And come back around. Gotten pretty high, so I'll come back around. One of the drawbacks of all simulators is when you get high enough that you can't see the ground, you lose kind of track of where the runway is, so don't let that basically frustrate you. In this particular setting, I believe the runway's right in line with this little break in the mountains, and so we'll fly in and see if the runway comes into view. No, I don't think so. I think I've missed it. There it is. We'll try the other way. Get a decent landing in here. And again, you can get all your crashes out of the way, hopefully out of the way here in the simulator. Instead of with the real airplane. So here it is, the flying model simulator connected with the optional USB dongle for the Dynam Gavin series transmitters. Here are a couple of closing thoughts on the Dynam Primo Smart Ready to Fly package. The airplane went together easily with just a little foam removal to get the front wing tabs to fit snugly. Everything else was easily connected. As I mentioned during the build, the decals are very nice and easy to apply. They make the plane really attractive on the flight line. The Gavin 6A radio and the MSR 66A receiver work well together. Be sure to follow the instructions and calibrate the sticks on the radio. Also, be sure to double check the receiver flight modes after binding. I called attention to the fact that I misspoke during the wing mounting step when I said I connected the flaps to the aux channel. Actually, the flaps connect to the gear channel, so you can use the 3-position switch on the top right side of the transmitter to select flight modes. Speaking of flight, the Primo flew very well. Right out of the box, the control throws are modest, resulting in beginner-level control. It will do all the basic maneuvers smoothly. After you get proficient, you can increase the throws by moving the push rods to the horn holes closer to the control surfaces. You may have to cut or snip a little bit of the control rod if they bind with the control horn itself inside the loop made by the clevis. Since we've been discussing this as a plane for a new pilot, just use it as it comes from the box. I flew the Primo with and without the gyro. In normal mode, you can tell a difference in that the plane doesn't bounce around much in the wind. Without the gyro at cruise speeds, the flap deployment causes a significant pitch up. When the gyro is engaged, extending the flaps was barely noticeable. At low speeds, flap deployment was quite manageable even without the gyro. The auto recovery function of the MSR 66A receiver worked as advertised. I put the Primo in an extreme attitude and let go of the sticks and flicked the 3-position switch to the recovery position, and the plane quickly righted itself. Final approaches and landings were pretty easy. With the flaps down, the airplane slows way down while still having good flight control input. As you saw in the video, on hard surfaces, the hard foam tires will skip and bounce a bit. Landings in the grass or dirt are smooth and uneventful. The same thing is true on takeoff. If you try to do a slow, long takeoff roll with low to mid-level power, it's likely you'll end up skipping around, especially on a hard surface. I found that the proper takeoff technique to be a smooth but rapid power application that results in a smooth but short takeoff that's easily controllable. The fact that you can use the Gavin 6A transmitter with an additional $7 USB cable to control the FMS flight simulator is a plus. As I mentioned earlier, the sim is a great way to develop some RC muscle memory without risking your model. Look for a separate, more in-depth video on the FMS sim on my RCPlaneviews.com channel coming soon. Overall, the Dynam Smart RTF packages do what they say they will, and more specifically, the Primo model would be a good choice for the new modeler just starting out in RC flying or the modeler returning to the hobby after an absence. All for a competitive price. Hey, if you found this video helpful, please click on the thumbs up icon below the video and consider subscribing to the RCPlaneviews.com channel on YouTube. Click on the bell icon to be notified when I post new videos. Thanks for watching.